Hey there friends and viewers, what's up? It's Hengest. We're going to be doing a short overview video today of the new champion on the PvE coming out just in time for Halloween. Her name is Elise, the Spider Queen. And we're going to talk a little bit how she works. But first things first, this champion is going to set a new world record for being the new chestiest champion in the League of Legends. Yes, more than Sona, I know. First things first, you're going to notice that she shares a lot of just a couple actually, similarities with Jace and Nidalee in that she transforms between a humanoid form and a spider form. However, she's more like Jace because she has her quote ultimate, the spider form, at level 1. So she actually has 3 starting abilities. So first we're going to go over her passive called Spider Form, and then we're going to go over all of our humanoid abilities so we can just keep our head clean here, because there is kind of a lot to digest with this champion. So the passive is called Spider Swarm. The way this works is every time you hit a target, minion or champion with one of her spells in humanoid form, you're going to ready a spiderling, and you can stack up to 5 spiderlings. Then when you transform into Spider Form, the spiderlings become active and they act as your little minions, and they have a couple bonuses of their own. But it's very basic. They're easy to kill, and in order to get them back, you have to cast spells in human form. And AoE only counts for 1 spiderling. Okay, so her first ability in caster form, her Q, is called Neurotoxin. This is a great ability for harass, especially in the early game, and it's also unique because it scales with the target's amount of maximum HP plus a percentage AP scaling thereafter. So the more HP that your target has available to them, the more damage this is going to deal. So it's absolutely fantastic for trading at level 1. She can just deal a lot of damage with this, and really it makes her very strong against tanky champions in general. Somebody like Malphite, somebody with a lot of HP and not a lot of MR, is going to get dominated by this ability, Neurotoxin. It's also very low mana cost, only 60 mana, so you can actually use this quite well for last hitting. This champion in general is very mana efficient, kind of similar to Zyra, I would say. Also, Neurotoxin is great against minions, Baron and Dragon primarily because they have such high HP, but the maximum damage bonus versus minions is capped out, actually reasonably low. Her W in caster form is called the Volatile Spiderling. The best way I can describe this ability is it's very similar to a Maokai Sapling, only the targeting reticle is totally different. It works as a regular skill shot, but you can scale the range with it so that you can more accurately skill shot. It's missile speed, if you can call it that, because it is kind of a homing missile. The AI is kind of a fusion between a regular skill shot and a sapling, but the missile speed in general is very slow, very slow. So this is actually very great for pushing, laning. It just deals a lot of AoE damage, and it's actually very difficult. Well, I wouldn't say very difficult, but more difficult than you might expect to hit a single target with this thing. Number 1, because it moves so slow, and number 2, because the collision detection is very wide. Minions will block this if you're trying to hit a champion. So it does deal a lot of burst damage against a focused target, but mostly only in like a teamfight situation or in the jungle. Anytime you use this in lane, it's going to be difficult to skill shot somebody because the collision detection is so wide, and it's just going to hit minions and explode. But the explosion radius is relatively decent. This also scales 0.8 with AP, so 80% AP scaling. It deals a lot of damage late game. It's very similar to a sapling. If you ever built Mage Kai, you know what I'm talking about. So that's just like a unique version of the sapling, is my best way to describe it. And it's 12-second cooldown. The mana cost actually increases as you level it up. But again, this champion is pretty mana efficient, so not really a big area of concern there for her. Her E in caster form is called the Cocoon. It's just a range stun skill shot. The missile speed on this is actually rather fast, faster than a light binding or a dark binding. However, it doesn't deal any damage. That's the very important part. It's very mana efficient, 65 mana. The cooldown pretty short. It decreases as you level this up. That's really the only reason you would level this up, is for decreased cooldown, which is actually very valuable. But yeah, you're going to probably want to level this one last in almost every circumstance, or E that is. Cocoon is great for peeling, as it is a 1.5 second hard stun. So you can shut down, Katarinas. It's a great hard stun. But again, it doesn't deal a lot of damage, or excuse me, it doesn't deal any damage. So don't make the mistake of trying to kill somebody with this ability. You need to be able to follow up, preferably with a Q and a W, as this is basically, if you want to land a skill shot with her W, the volatile spiderling, you need to have this cocoon active on your target to begin with. So it's almost like I feel that she's very similar to Zyra, Lux, and Morgana in the sense that her spells are dependent on a root/stun from a range. And it's almost like they wanted to give her a dark binding or a light binding, but instead they decided that'd be too much damage for her. So they're going to give her a hard stun binding, but it doesn't deal any damage, and it's a 1.5 second stun. Overall, I really like Cocoon. It's easy to skill shot with that one. The collision detection is smooth, etc. As opposed to Volatile Spiderling, I don't like that ability at all. It is quite difficult to skill shot with that one. It's, like I said, more for farm. So let's go ahead and get onto her spider form. You guys can read the tooltip of the spider form yourself. It has a whole bunch of bonuses. Very similar to cat form, actually, or cougar form on Nidalee. It just makes her a little bit faster and tankier in terms of MR and, armor. But the most important part about the spider form is that she deals magic damage on auto attack. So all you brainiacs out there are thinking, yeah, spell vamp on this champion is going to be great. Hextech Gunblade, Will of the Ancients. Actually, I've tried a Gunblade build with Elise, and it actually worked very well. But yeah, do your own experimentation. Just bear in mind that her auto attacks in spider form deal magic damage, so that's going to scale with 20% AP, and also you got to factor in how that affects spell vamp and lifesteal. Her Q in spider form is called the Venomous Bite. This is interesting because it's a very short gap close, but it's very fast. And it almost doesn't even look like a gap close. She just kind of extends her legs out, and yeah, she's just in that position. But it's quite a rangy ability. I would say kind of like a Garen Q. I don't know. It's definitely not melee range. It's very, and the mechanics actually almost identical to Nidalee's takedown, her Q. In that it scales with the target's missing missing HP, but it scales with magic, not physical, the way that Nidalee's does. So if you do the math, you have Neurotoxin, her caster form Q, that's going to deal damage based on how much HP they have, and then Venomous Bite, her spider form Q, which deals damage based on how much HP they're missing. So she's a great executing champion, in fact, and just overall very strong for focusing down different types of champions in a team fight, and also just harass in lane. Venomous Bite is a 6-second cooldown. It's very short, so you're actually able to spam this for very deadly harass, gap closing, and also last hits. Do bear in mind that none of her spider form abilities cost any mana, just like cat form Nidalee. You can spam these abilities. The only time you need to take into consideration whether or not it's wise to use them is when you're fighting champions and you need to have those abilities available for peeling and whatnot and getting kills. So Venomous Bite is a great ability. It's very powerful. It also works very well against minions and jungling, just as her Q does. And it scales with ability power. So there's absolutely no reason to ever build AD on this champion, really, except for, like I said, that Hextech Gunblade for some spell vamp and spider form. So her her W in spider form is called Skittering Frenzy. This is very special, and it's almost like it's designed for jungling, which I haven't done a lot of experimentation with Elise in jungle because she's not out yet. But yeah, her passive attack speed is going to be increased significantly for 3 seconds. It scales 60%, 80%, 100%, 120, all the way up to 140% attack speed for 3 seconds. So again, dishing out a lot of damage in melee in spider form. But the most important part is that this will also apply to your spiderlings. So if you have spiderlings up, every time that they auto attack at this increased speed, they will heal you for 4 HP plus a percentage algorithm for how much ability power you have. If you try it out in the jungle and you have 5 spiderlings active, you use this ability when you're auto attacking in spider form and you have some spell vamp on you, especially if you have spell vamp on you. She will heal herself really easily, and even against champions and such. But make sure that your spiderlings are in range to melee attack, because this is only a 3-second active buff, and then you need to be utilizing that to the fullest, as it is on a 12-second cooldown. So as long as those spiderlings are wailing on a target, they're going to be healing you for a lot of HP while this buff is active, the Skittering Frenzy. And also just overall, that increased attack speed in spider form is going to be dealing a lot of melee damage. Her E in Spider Form is one of the more interesting abilities in the game, in my opinion. And it's so good. This is something that's really going to make or break this champion in player skill. It's because it's so versatile. You can read the tooltip yourself. Basically, you can cast this anywhere in a giant circumference that you want. And she's going to repel up into the air and become untargetable for 2 seconds. Yes, untargetable. That means this is a built-in Zonias on this champion on an 18-second cooldown at level 5. So it doesn't actually deal any damage, but she can evade anything for 2 seconds. That includes dazzles, any sort of skill shot. You can bait ultimates and such. As long as you cast this before you're hard stunned or CC'd, you'll evade everything. Zig's ultimate, Lux lasers, True Shot barrage, anything. She can't be damaged while she's up in the air for 2 seconds. While she's up there, within those 2 seconds, you can also choose to come down whenever you want on an enemy champion. Or any target, actually. This includes minions and just creeps in the jungle. So she can come down at any point in time after a dodge, etc. You can also just straight up use it as a gap close by directly targeting somebody and gap closing for an enormous amount of distance. When she's up in the air and there's targets exposed within the targeting reticle around walls and such, she can see over walls. So for example, you can use this to jump over the tree line to get blue buff or something in the jungle. It's an extremely powerful ability, Repel. Again, this doesn't cost any resource, and it's on a reasonably low cooldown. It's really just, you just need to experiment with that ability yourself. But the biggest thing I need to communicate to you guys is you need to be careful when you build this champion, because she has, technically she has 2 gap closes, so this means she can really chase people down, and she even has that cocoon stun in caster form to really, you know, she can really pursue people. But you'll make the mistake of doing that because she's a mage, man. She's very squishy. So if you do not build tanky on this champion, you got to be really careful how you use these abilities. You have two routes really. You can build damage Elise, or you can build mage tank Elise, kind of like Rise or something. And if you're building damage Elise, you do not want to use Repel to pursue people unless you're certain you can get these kills, because they can easily turn around on you and dominate you as a squishy mage in melee range. She has to get in melee range to deal a lot of her damage. In fact, in some cases, more than half of her damage comes from spider form. So you've got to be really careful when you decide to go, and it's very similar to how you would play Nidalee, and that you need to know the right time to move in with cat form or spider form, because you are squishy and you need to know how much damage you're capable of in a short amount of time, otherwise you get evaporated. Recommended items for this champion are pretty tanky by default: Rylai's, Frozen Heart, etc. Building her tanky is very smart, and in fact, I'm doing my own experimentation. I think this champion would be extremely powerful in the jungle, although I haven't had a chance to do it with proper runes because it's in the PvE. But yeah, she can jump over walls very easily. She can deal obscene amounts of damage to jungle minions, and she has a lot of AoE. If you build Spellvamp on this champion, you don't even need Spellvamp. If you're just tanky enough and you have your Skittering Frenzy active with 5 Spiderlings, she can heal up and sustain so well. Most importantly, she has a, get this guys, she has a very long range hard stun, 1.5 second stun, and 2 gap closes. And she can execute people. So her ganks are potentially very scary. You need to be careful when she goes live and people figure out that she can jungle, and she's probably going to be pretty damn overpowered on release, just based on how much percentage based damage she does and how good of a ganker she is. So she can be played in the mid lane. I wouldn't consider her, well, let's just say I could take her down on most mages that I'm good at. She's not the strongest laner. She's much better at team fighting, killing people, and ganking. I'm going to go ahead and go out on a limb and say that this champion is going to be one of the better AP jungles in the game right now. That's probably where people end up playing her the most. However, her lane presence is good. She has great sustainability, very low mana cost. I'm just a little bit concerned that, you know, she's too squishy in spider form until you start, because she doesn't have any built-in defenses really, apart from the repel dodge that you can do. So she's very squishy. It's going to make it difficult to trade with a lot of people in a solo lane. I wouldn't really recommend playing her as support at all. All she has is that stun. That's about it. But yeah, we'll wait to see what this champion's capable of. I thought I'd give you guys a preview of her, as I don't believe she's out at the time of this video is being released. Hopefully you got something out of it, got my take on it, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.